Hello everybody and welcome to Neat Games. This is episode 3 of Beginner Basics and we're going to talk about how to gear specific champions. And in today's example, I think I'm going to use my good boy, Royal Guard. So I built my Royal Guard a long time ago and I haven't kind of looked at his set since then. Now I want to take a look and see, is there ways I can improve his build and get him more to the stat line that I'd like him to. Now keep in mind, in the earlier game, you're not going to have a tremendous amount of gear and a tremendous amount of options, so sometimes it's okay to build them the best way that you can, and then kind of circle back to it after you farm some more gear in Dragon, or got some more gear from winning tournaments in like Relentless sets and stuff like that, because that's where you're going to get your higher star gear. But I've spent a bunch of time farming Dragon, which is why I have accuracy and speed sets on Royal Guard. Now, again, we're going to start with the exact tip and strategy that I gave you. Let's read Royal Guard's skill kit and understand what is it that we're actually looking for his build. So his A1 is an attack one enemy has a 50% chance of placing a 60% decreased defense debuff for 2 turns. So what does that mean? That means we need accuracy. That's one of the focuses of him. Number 2, he attacks all enemies, and damage increases according to the enemy max HP. And you can see here it says the damage is based on attack and the enemy max HP. And the enemy max HP is the biggest part of this damage base. Now, what that means is when you're fighting, let's say, Spider 10 versus Spider 15 versus Spider 20, the max HP of the Spider is going to go up the higher the dungeon. And it caps out at stage 20, and then from 21 to 25, you can't do additional damage. But the point is, that is where the scalability comes from. So forcing him with a lot of attack, if you can, is great for the rest of his skill kit, but it's not a priority. Okay? The priority is understanding his full skill kit. Here we see that he attacks 4 times at random. Each hit has a 60% chance of placing a 30% decreased speed debuff for 2 turns, and each hit also has a 60% chance of decreasing the target's turn meter. So when I'm reading this kit, I'm understanding it as, okay, accuracy is very important on this champion because he has multiple instances where accuracy is needed. He needs accuracy for the decreased defense debuff, he needs accuracy for the decreased speed debuff, and he also needs accuracy to land the decreased turn meter. So accuracy is very important. Number 2, we probably want him going pretty fast because we want him to cycle through these skills because he's going to provide a lot of usability for us. And then number 2, I don't really care so much about the attack itself. I care more about capping his crit rate as high as I can and then putting the rest of it into crit damage. Now another example of a champion with a very similar skill kit is Coldheart. Also an attack-based champion. Attacks 4 times at random. Each hit has a 25% chance of placing a debuff. More debuffs. And then again, enemy max HP. Decreases turn meter with a chance. Okay? Again, so she needs accuracy to land that. Now, the general rule of thumb that we use in this game is, let's say, for example, you're farming, Spider 10. You want 10 times that accuracy to land that debuff. So you want at least 100 accuracy. And as you progress through the different parts of the game, you want to do that same logic. So for stage 20, you want about 200 accuracy. A little bit higher would never hurt, but that's the general kind of rule of thumb. Okay? So when we read, for example, her skill kit, this shows you how often I play this account because I haven't even put a necklace on her. So let's get a crit damage necklace on her. What? Really? Look how many necklaces I have. Not one of them is crit damage main. Jesus Christ. That is a shame. So substats, crit damage. Okay, so that's the piece we're going to go with here. I mean, HP would have been nicer, but let's see if this rolls crit damage. So now we're going to explain kind of the logic of how I geared Coldheart and how I geared Royal Guard, because it's very similar kind of base build. So the boots are always going to be speed boots. Like we discussed on the previous video, the speed boots is the most important thing on a champion. Okay? So as you can see, I have speed boots on Royal Guard, I have speed boots on Coldheart. Okay, the next thing is we want that survivability aspect that we were talking about. So defense on him and accuracy on her. Now the reason why I put accuracy on her is because my goal was to get her in a Relentless set at the time because Relentless is my best gear and I knew that based off of the stats that I was going to go for, It would be okay if I put her in Relentless because, again, Relentless gives you an extra chance of proccing another turn, which means she's going to cycle through her skills, which means the likelihood of her being able to do her Heartseeker skill, which is where she gets the most value, goes up. So this is kind of an offset of speed. People say it's about 15 or 18 or 20 speed is the offset of getting them in Relentless. But with somebody like Royal Guard, who I didn't have in Relentless, you can see his speed is much higher than Cold Heart's was. Now granted, he's in a couple speed sets, he has 16 boots, she only has level 12 boots, so she needs some more love and I'd like to improve her build. But I'm not going to do that right now. Again, this is just for explanation purposes. So when we go back to either of these champions, we understand that the accuracy is very important. We understand that the speed is important. We understand survivability is important. And then from there, we just want to prioritize crit rate and crit damage. In this specific scenario, we don't care so much about the attack because they have enemy max HP damage. Now, when we look at somebody like Kale, who I actually took out of lifesteal because I was pushing Arena and I just wanted him to hit harder, that's why he's in attack percentage. Because for him, his damage is not based off of enemy max HP, it's actually based off of attack. So we want, in a perfect world, to have everything. We want him crit capped, which is a minimum of 85%. We want a bunch of stuff into crit damage, and then we want to pump his attack up as well. But again, it depends on the champion that you're building. So let's go back to Royal Guard. Okay? We want him to have speed and accuracy. So that's why I was able to get him in an accuracy boot. The set of accuracy gives you an extra 40 accuracy if you have 2 artifacts for that set. So we got him started with this 5-star speed boot, which was really good for my account, with a double roll on crit rate. Great start. Then we put him in a defense chest with 2 rolls on accuracy and another roll on crit rate. So you can already see the strategy that I was going for. We were greedy and we got him in a crit damage glove because we had a decent amount of crit rate coming from the other pieces. Now we can see here, there's speed here, but no rolls on crit rate. There's 1 roll on crit rate here, but with a double flat stat. And then here, there's a double crit rate and a speed, which is great, but it's only a 4-star. So these are the 3 pieces where I'm going to look and see if I can improve. So the way that I'm going to do this is literally, I'm going to filter. We're going to go with these 2, and we're going to start with crit rate, and we're going to look in the speed set, because I'd like to keep his speed kind of where it is. Maybe we'll look at accuracy and see if we get lucky, which we didn't. So if this rolls on crit rate, maybe we can do that swap and pump his accuracy up, but I think I'd like to keep his speed where it is. So let's see here if we can roll these pieces up and land some on crit rate. Because right now his crit rate is not capped. It's approaching the crit rate cap, but it's not exactly there. So I'll show you what I mean when I say crit cap. If the rolls happen. Okay, so for example, right now when we look at his set, he's only at 73% crit rate. So it's possible that taking him out of the crit damage gloves and just getting him to 100% crit rate would actually be better for his builds. Now, for an early account, a champion like Royal Guard is not an easy champion to build. So that's why I did the best that I could, and he got the job done for me. I put him in my Spider 10 team, which is what I want to be farming, and he's doing his job in Spider 10 and in Dragon, which is really all I need him for. But, you know, there are definitely better ways to get the build to what I want it to be. So, for example, we're going to keep on looking and see if we can get a double crit rate roll, because we really would like to bump up his crit rate. So let's say, for example, okay, I was to put this piece on and this piece on. Already we can see that the crit rate goes up, the crit damage goes up, the accuracy goes up, but the speed is getting affected a little bit. So this is kind of the trade-off when you're building your champions. You have to understand what is the best way for me to build this champion, what is the maximum that I can get. Now, sometimes you might have to not get full sets on them, which is fine. So let's say, for example, I want to just look at my 6-star pieces of gear that have speed and accuracy in the substat. So Lysandra is the only one that is wearing it, and as you can see, as we were talking before, I was lucky and I got a triple roll on this piece. And that's why it's living on Lysandra. Because her primary important stat for me is speed, because she's my speed lead in Arena, and I need her to go first so she can decrease everybody else's turn meter. So we go down to 5-star. Do we have any 5-star pieces that have both accuracy and speed? We do. This one has 1 roll on accuracy and a double roll on defense. Not a great piece. This piece has 2 rolls on crit rate and 1 roll on speed. So this is actually a great piece for Royal Guard. But maybe my Zargala actually needs that piece. So this is kind of the plug and play and the messing around that you have to do when you are gearing your champions, because you have to understand what is the stats required for everybody. Now, unfortunately, a lot of champions require speed, a lot of champions require defense, and a lot of champions require speed, accuracy, and crit rate. So especially for an early game account, it becomes difficult to get these all to the cap and to what you need it to be on everybody. So that's why you kind of just have to do the best that you can, and you have to farm a ton of gear to be able to gear everybody the best way that they can. But the focus that I'm trying to get through in an attack-based champion is the same thing as in that first video. Make sure you read their skill kit, understand what is the stats that you're trying to get to, and then build them to that. If you can get it in sets, great. If you can't, that's fine too. Sets are not the be-all, end-all. What's most important is the absolute final numbers of the build. So right now, my Kale is no longer in lifesteal because I put him in to try and get into Gold 1 in Arena. So my goal was to get him with the speed that he needed to be in tune with the rest of the champions, and to get him to around 85% crit rate with as high crit damage as possible. And if I can keep him in some accuracy to land those poison debuffs, great. But his real focus of this specific build was to put him in a high damage output build. That's why I have him in speed boots, attack percentage chest, crit damage gloves, with the substats of crit rate and crit damage everywhere else. That's kind of the best build that I could put on him. Now, in an ideal situation, this would be a crit damage necklace, which, as we saw before, I didn't have any, and this would be an attack percentage, an attack banner with a substat of attack percentage. Doesn't exist, but even still, it might make sense for me to put this on instead of this banner. But as you can see, this is an attack flat stat. This is a defense with a roll on attack, and I'm only gaining 95 attack, but I'm losing HP and defense. But the real reason why I didn't use this banner is because if I did, it would increase my speed by 8, which would take him out of my speed tune in Arena. Now, what do I mean by the speed tune in Arena? I mean that I have my champions going in a very specific way. So we're going to lose this fight most likely, but we'll show you anyways. Okay, the way that this team is built is that she needs to go first to decrease the turn meter of everybody else and increase the speed of my champions in turn meter. Then I want attack up, then I want defense down, and then I want Kale to do his hit. Now I'm going to lose this fight, but I'm just showing the logic of understanding how important speed is and how you have to build your champions. So as we discussed before, Lysandra is my fastest champion. So I'm doing an increased speed buff on all allies. I'm filling the turn meter of all my allies and decreasing the turn meter of them. My next champion to go is Spirit Host, who's going to put an increased attack buff. Then my next champion is War Maiden, and she's going to be putting a decreased defense debuff on everybody if her accuracy is high enough and if she actually has the ability to land it. Unfortunately, I only landed it on one champion because 2 of these people are the negative affinity, and just her accuracy isn't high as it needs to be. And now Kale comes in with his big hit. Now, if everybody had decreased defense, that hit would have been higher. Now, I knew going into this fight that I was going to lose it, so I'm not taking it personally. But this is the idea of having a speed tune. Whereas if I put that other banner on Kale, he would have been out of the speed tune, and he would have went before the increased attack and before the decreased defense, which is not ideal. So what my goal is actually going to be, now that I pulled the Zargala, is I'm going to replace War Maiden with Zargala, because Zargala can apply that decreased defense debuff while also nuking and doing some more damage to the enemies. So for example, if we look at Zargala and we read her skill kit, again, she is an epic attack champion, and her skill kit has a debuff here. This is Devastate, which will instantly activate Crack Armor, and if we read Crack Armor, it's again, attacks all enemies 3 times. After the first hit, has a 50% chance of placing a 60% decrease defense debuff. That's why I have to build her with a similar build that I had to War Maiden, where the goal is to get her fast enough with as much accuracy as possible. So her accuracy wasn't really that bad for that fight. It's just bad luck against 2 of the opposite affinity champions, so it's a lower chance to apply that debuff. So likely what I'm going to do is put Kale back into lifesteal, and then got Zargala in this build almost exactly, or a very similar build to this, because this has a very high speed with a decent amount of accuracy, and that is the most important thing for me. Whereas right now, I had Zargala in the lifesteal build because I was using her to push my faction war. So I actually was So I was actually able to beat this boss because I had Zargala and lifesteal. So again, you have to understand what the job of the specific champion is and what you're going to use them for before you build them. Then you read their skill kit, then you apply that information to what you're prioritizing. Anyways, this video has gone on for way too long, but I hope this helps on how to gear your attack-based champion. Start with the speed boots, give them some survivability in the chest. If you're later in the game, it's fine potentially to put them in an attack percentage chest. Find crit rate or crit damage in the gloves and the subsequent stats everywhere else. So for example, speed boots. How I usually start is speed boots with crit rate in the substat, 6-star or 5-star, right? 6-star or 5-star. Then we go to the chest. If we're greedy, then we go with attack percentage, again with speed and crit rate, or just crit rate and crit damage. Right? If that's being too greedy, then you just find whatever you need, whether it's accuracy or HP percentage or defense percentage to give you that extra survivability, or you just do HP and defense percentage with crit rate and crit damage, something like that. So this would be a good piece for a nuker in my opinion, because it's going to give them survivability and crit rate and crit damage. Then for the glove, you start in a perfect world with your highest star crit damage glove with a substat of crit rate, and just hope you get lucky and actually roll crit rate on the piece. Right? That's the dream piece always. If you can't find that there, then that's okay. You can just do crit damage with whatever other substat, and then you're just going to look for your highest star pieces with crit rate in the substat. And of course, the higher the piece, when it rolls and actually hits, the higher the number is going to be. So that's where you're going to find the most value. Like for example, this piece is 6-star with a double hit is at 20%. So if we look at our Cold Heart, she followed basically that exact strategy. Speed boots, crit damage gloves with crit rate in the substat, and then I just looked for crit rate in the other subsequent pieces, and I was able to keep her in Relentless because I was able to get an accuracy chest here. Now, I'm going to likely re-gear all of these champions now that I've been farming a tremendous amount of gear for the last while, and this is something that's going to be constantly happening in the game. So as you can see, I've been focusing primarily on winning tournaments, which is why I have a lot of Relentless gear. And I've been focusing on farming Dragon, because that's where in the early and mid game you get a lot of good gear. So my challenge here now is that I have to roll up all of this gear to get a better idea of which pieces are actually good and usable. But for the beginning of the game, sets like speed, accuracy, and lifesteal have a tremendous amount of value because it allows you to cheat a little bit on the other stats because they're giving you a bonus that can really help your champions. So I'm going to say this again because I know I'm kind of contradicting myself. The substats are the most important thing. The higher stars are the most important thing. But if you can build somebody with a set focus and not sacrifice the overall build or the overall stat line, there's nothing wrong with that. So it's really about trial and error. It's about testing a build out in the fitting room. Really use the fitting room to your advantage. And then playing around with a different version of the build, screenshot it, set it to the side, maybe enter it into a spreadsheet like I do. That kind of logic, that kind of strategy really can get you familiar with the best way to build your champions. I hope this helps. We'll see you next time for defense-based champions, or support-based champions, or HP-based champions. I don't know. We'll find out together which one it's going to be. See ya.